So who am I? Why is this little Mexican guy up here talking to you? Here's my obligatory list of accomplishments. I am the senior marketing manager for brand and field at TINT, which is the world's most powerful user-generated content platform. Our customers are Hyatt, Marriott, PF Chang's, Lowe's Hotels. We work really big with Yeti, CPG. We just got back from Cons. We do iHeartMedia. So we work with some of the big brands on the planet to do influencer marketing, user-generated content. And we sell the tech. So you guys are the marketing people. You do cool stuff with our technology. We don't have to actually do it for you. That's like too much work. We're on the tech side. We're the nerds that just help you out. Other stuff I do, I'm on the board of the International Festival and Events Association. IFEA is like Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, Kentucky Derby Festival, Pasadena Battle of the Flowers. And so you can read through all this. The long way about it is if you catch me at the bar at 9 o'clock tonight, which here at the hotel I will be, you're welcome to buy me a drink, but just know that I only talk about marketing. I don't have any hobbies. I don't watch sports. I don't play video games. So, like, marketing is kind of my shtick. So, just fair warning, buy me a drink, and I will just talk your ear off about user-generated content. So, it's always great to know where we are going. Here is our roadmap for today. If this is not what you signed up for, it's okay. I think there's still snacks next door. There's coffee. You can like run away. I have a lovely therapist, and she would love to talk about something other than my mother for once. And so, you need to go with it. It's fine. It's not going to hurt my feelings too badly. It's always good to have a laughter in the crowd. Thank you. As you can tell, this is a very serious conversation. So we're going to talk a little bit about why EGC. What is it doing? Talk about a framework for you to really kind of think about it, and then we're going to go through a couple of case studies, assuming we have plenty of time at the end. So I love this quote, and I like starting a lot of presentations with this. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And that's really kind of the punchline for marketing, right? It's not what you are selling, it's why it is helpful. It's why your product or service creates value in the world. And so really think about that as you are connecting with users that are telling your story, as you're connecting with people that are telling testimonials. Who was here yesterday for all the master classes? Most folks? Karen Domat, who is one of my besties. We're both from Texas. She talked about user-generated content, and then that amazing session about live video. It was all about testimonials, right? People want to trust other people, and so by leveraging that trust, you can do truly amazing things. So as we get into employee-generated content, which is a flavor of user-generated content, here's sort of the technical definition. And really, it's just anything that an employee of an organization says about that organization. It can be a status update. It could be spoken word, it could be a testimonial, it could be a report, it could be a social post. It's anything that's said by an employee and not by an official employee or branded channel, rather. And the thing is, going back to what I said earlier, if you take nothing away, it's that people trust people, they don't trust marketers. For whatever reason, they think that marketers are scaly lizard people. And I get it. It's like this time of year, my teeth are a little bit dry. And like, I do feel a little bit scaly some days. And again, it could just be aging millennial problems. But people want to trust other people. They want to believe that if you say this is a great place to work, this is a great product or service, this is a fantastic place to be or place to go or experience to have, that you don't have some sort of ulterior motive. And so I love looking at this Alien Trust Barometer. They release it every year. This is one that's a little bit older. It's 19. I haven't had a chance to see the new one because it's $4,000 paywall, and MarTech is lucrative, but not that lucrative. So you can see the most trusted person at a company is going to be some sort of technical expert. That's going to be like your head of engineering. That's going to be a PhD at a university. That's going to be someone that has some sort of technical credential that they're able to speak technically about. Now that doesn't mean you should have your head of engineering or your PhD in, I don't know, biology. Go and talk about why email or direct mail is fantastic. You go to a content expert for that. But people truly trust that. Next is going to be an academic expert. Even if there's no affiliation, people trust the academics. And that's why when you listen to the news or read it, there's always someone interviewing a professor. Oh, Professor XYZ at UCLA, Professor ABC at UT Austin said this, because people like to believe that academia is relatively neutral. And this is actually changing. When you look at some of the stats from the newer trust barometer, academia is kind of going down. And that's just kind of a political thing that we're not going to talk about. But just know that academics still tend to be pretty trustworthy. And the next two best things are a person like you, the ultimate end user of a product or service. And so let's think about the last time you bought something from Amazon. Has anyone bought anything on Amazon in the last week? Is anyone actively checking Prime Day deals on their phone as we speak? It's okay, I'm just doing it right before I got up. No shame at all. Right, so the first thing you do when you go on Amazon, you make sure that the product meets spec. Is it the right size? Is it the right color? Is it the right shape? Is it the right USB adapter? And then for the vast majority of us, the next step is always going to be to scroll down and look at those reviews. Look and see, did it actually work? Did it actually do the thing? Did it actually make someone happy or influence joy or help them get rid of that neighbor or like whatever it is you're buying on Amazon? We all have different use cases. So, did the thing work? And the interesting thing about employee-generated content, user-generated content, and influencer marketing in general is that it's not new. When you look at the murals of Pompeii, there are murals that say, our fish sauce is great. Senator XYZ said our fish sauce was great. And it's nuts to think that we've been doing influencer and user-generated content marketing since antiquity, and the channels have changed, the methods have changed, but it's still marketers doing the exact same thing. And I don't know if that fish sauce is great, but hey, if that senator said so, I don't think he would try to mislead me. Also, he's dead, and so, that helps a little bit. But right after a person like you is going to be the employee. And especially as we think about the great reshuffling, the great rehiring, the great resignation, people want to find places to work that reflect their values, that reflect their perspective. And we see more and more brands that are kind of becoming, so to say, almost politically polarized. You have brands like Ben & Jerry's that really say, we're liberal, we are progressive, this is our place that we are. And then you have brands like Black Rifle Coffee and Grunt Style that take the opposite polar spectrum. And the fact is, people just want to work at places that reflect their values. And that's why when we saw the height of BLM, we saw the height of all the things that are happening right now. I'm trying to pitch political, but this is just the state of the world. People want to know that their employers are going to reflect their values, reflect their perspectives, and that the brands and the companies that you are buying from really do reflect who you see yourself as a person. And that is just going to get more and more powerful, especially as Gen Z is now currently in the workforce. Do you have any Zoomers in here? Hey, Zoomers. We're friends. Millennials are friends. I don't know why you guys hate us. We're with you. We want to fight the boomers too. We're friends. Please be nice to a millennial. And even more so as Generation Alpha, which is turning 10 this year. And if you have any friends with, or if you have kids, ask them if their 10-year-old guides purchase decisions. Absolutely, their kids are buying purchase decisions, right? So younger millennials, Gen Z, and Gen Alpha are all about that brand identity. They want to buy from people that reflect and look like them. And millennials, I'm just going to give you a piece of forgiveness. It's okay if you sneak Chick-fil-A every once in a while. We know. I know. It's okay. Pride is over. Go get that chicken sandwich, and I will forgive you. I do not speak on behalf of the entire LGBT community, but if you need that chicken sandwich, just go give Chick-fil-A or something afterwards, and we just call it even. Now, when you look at the very end of the spectrum, the least trusted are going to be government employees, which I think is fair. Journalists, which is actually going down further and further. And then I love that it's the CEO and the board of directors that are the least trusted. And often when people try to launch their employee-generated content strategy, the first thing they do is we're going to do a CEO newsletter. Okay, well, no, people don't like him. I sit 10 feet from our CEO, and I don't think he's watching this. I like him as a person. I do not want to read his newsletter. And he knows that. And then the board of directors or your C-suite, and that's often the thing, the CMO is going to write a newsletter. We're going to get this great report from product that's going out. We're going to do this thing on the engineering. No one cares. They don't want to hear from those people. I don't want to hear from those people. I can mark you as spam. Let's just have an authentic voice, an authentic perspective, and talk a little bit more about it. Now, there's lots of reasons why we don't use employees in our marketing. But there's many more reasons why we should. I love this number that there is a 24% increase in the content shared by employees over brand accounts. And so we all know that organic is in the garbage right now. If you are sharing on brand channels, it's really hard, especially on social, to get a little bit of that traction. But if you are activating your employees as your influencers driving the messaging, you can see these sorts of returns. And these are from the State of User-Generated Content, which is a report, a white paper that we release annually. We interview thousands of people across the world, and this is from that aggregate data. So you're welcome to read it. If not, it's like 30 pages long, and we wrote it, and it's okay. You can pretend you read it, and it will not hurt my feelings. Again, lovely therapist. And this is the other big number, and this is the thing that is probably impeding you right now. People are afraid to share your company content. Now, within the marketing department, I bet you, if you're anything like me, I post something on social and I immediately jump in Slack and I'm like, hey, there's something good on social, go share it. Or maybe you do it like in your general chat or in your office chat, and there's like one or two people that will do it because they're on the ball, and everyone else is like, I don't know if I should share, I don't know if I should add commentary, I don't know if I should be part of this conversation. And especially when you look at like highly regulated industries, with good reason, especially in academia, especially in long established organizations, people don't like to share that content because they're afraid they're going to get their wrist slapped. They're afraid they're going to say something wrong or not phrase it correctly. And the further those people are from the marketing function, especially if you're in like a large scale business like QuickServe, let's say as an example, right? The people that are on the ground doing service day to day are really afraid of getting in trouble with corporate, great corporate entity that is controlling whatever is happening. And so you as a marketer, as a person that's launching this employee-generated content strategy, need to be aware of these fears and make sure you work to make it easy to be part of the conversation. So we've talked a little bit about setting the stage. These are the things that EGC will actually do for you. First off, it drives marketing and sales. It's just straight up that you are working with brand stuff, you are driving this messaging. If you are telling them, hey, share some marketing messaging, share sales messaging, the wider it gets spread, the better it is for everyone, right? So it can really drive all those metrics. Next, we talked about the Great Resignation. So it is all about making it a great place to recruit, helping with retention, and really the retention part is the hard part right now because hiring people is relatively easy to hire. On NPR last week, they said for every one person looking for a job, there's 2 jobs that are out there in the US, which is a crazy stat. And so there's people job hunting and running around. It's getting them to stay that's really, really important and really difficult. And then ultimately, if people are sharing constantly, if they're always part of the conversation, it's a great play for brand awareness. And we all know as marketing and communications professionals, brand awareness is a long-term play, right? It's not like the secret sauce that's going to fix something or drive leads or drive KPIs overnight. It's about building that long-term brand presence. And especially as we have the rumblings of a recession, or we're already in a recession, depending on how your cap is, having that brand affinity, having people really care about your brands is so very important. So here is the framework. This is the slide that you want to take a picture of because it will guide the next part of our conversation. Let's do that for a second. So we're going to break it into 4 easy parts. Number 1, make participation easy. Number 2, get buy-in, and we'll talk about what that actually means. 3, offer meaningful incentives. And then 4, celebrate engagement. Now, before we get too far into it, these are kind of like pre-work pieces that I encourage you to do. Number 1, go look at your employee handbook. Who is the person from higher ed that was here? So I used to work in higher ed for the UT system. Our employee handbook, and this was like maybe, I don't know, 6 or 7 years ago, was still talking about Friendster. There was still in the UT system employee handbook still talked about Friendster. 7 years ago, Friendster was still not relevant, and I guarantee you that today it's probably still in that handbook. So go back in there, make sure that your employee handbook actually doesn't have stupid things like that. It's not talking about don't check in on Foursquare when you're on company property. Like, make sure that your employee handbook, first off, is just up to date because that's always a red flag for me if they have that left in the employee handbook. But also just look and see because kind of the older policy was you don't really talk about your work on your personal social. And I think especially when you think about Gen X and Boomers, like they really don't talk about their work on personal social. And so sometimes breaking down some of these bureaucratic institutional boundaries is a great way to kind of start the conversation or at least find out why some people are hesitant to share on social. Next, really think about company culture. Some companies, it's just a struggle to get people to participate, right? There are some brands, there are some businesses where people show up, do the thing, and leave. And there's no problem with that. Like, that's just kind of the nature of the beast. That's the type of company it is. There are some places that show up and they say, oh, we're a family. And then that gives me heartburn because that's like a big red flag for me. But just really think about the company culture. Is it conducive to an employee-generated content strategy? Is it worth you putting in the legwork to make this launch? An EGC campaign or strategy is not going to fix your corporate culture. Your corporate culture has to support this sort of strategy in the first place. And so make sure there's actually fertile ground before you try planting the seeds for this type of marketing case. On the legal side, mandatory participation. All of us have the best intentions whenever we do marketing stuff, but sometimes we're like, you have to share the thing. You have to participate, right? You have to come and play pickleball on Friday night, which is actually what's happening in San Antonio on Friday at our corporate offices. I will not be playing pickleball. I think it's stupid, but I will not be there. I'll be at home. I have no baggage at home. But when you say you have to do the thing, that opens the door to some weird, I wouldn't say weird, but like you can actually open the door to some legal issues. And so you want to make sure that your employee-generated content plan is voluntary, or if you are making it mandatory as part of the work function, that you're working with your human resources partners to make sure that you're keeping it kosher. Because when you say you have to do this, it becomes part of their day-to-day work. And so in Texas, we have Texas Workforce Commission, in California's Workforce Commission. You have FLSA, the Department of Labor, federally. And so you want to make sure that people don't feel like they have to participate because that's opening the door to a lawsuit. None of us want to get sued. And then lastly, you want to make sure that you have a good understanding of copyright and fair use, right? If someone creates a piece of content for you, then you need to make sure that you're getting the rights to that content. We'll talk a little bit more about that later, but just asking for permission is often the easiest way. Sometimes people, especially legal, will want you off to like a terms of service, and it's going to really vary by organization and organization. So these are just kind of the, like I said, groundwork before we even get to launching our strategy. So first off, make participation easy. What is the way that someone can contribute content to be part of the content machine? And this is where you as marketers get to, shall we say, democratize the content creation process, because we all know that the content marketing engine, it has to be fed. And you saw gas prices, like, oh my God, I just eat this engine, what? So when you create a smart employee-generated content strategy, EGC strategy, every post, every testimonial, every piece of content that someone outside the marketing function creates is a piece that can feed that marketing function. It's a great story to tell. It's a great something to share. So you want to make sure it's not limited to people that are super active on social. Can someone participate via SMS? Is there like a number they can text in a story or a tip or an idea to? Can they Slack it into a Slack channel, right? Can they upload it through a microsite? Can they share it via email? Because the best employee-generated content pieces are probably going to come in slightly longer forms. They're probably going to need a little bit of work before they're truly ready for mass consumption. And so by putting in mechanisms where they're not just sharing it to a hashtag, they're not just sharing it on social, it's a great way for you to be able to kind of capture it, zhuzh it up a bit, and then you can release it back in the wild as a piece of authentic content, just with a little bit of spin and polish on it. Next, if you're going to be doing some sort of branded hashtag, keep it simple. I forgot what I saw the other day on Twitter, and their like branded hashtag was the name of the company, EGC, HR, and then the year, and then something else. And I'm like, okay, someone's going to be at like company lunch, they're going to take a picture, and then have to spend the next 30 minutes remembering their stupid hashtag. So keep it simple. Don't make it hard to participate. People want to share content. They want to be part of the conversation. If your company were to feature you as like our featured employee of the week on social, who here would be excited for that? Okay, you're all liars. The vast majority of us would probably like the spotlight, if not for just being human and liking our 15 seconds of fame, then just because it helps us build our own personal brands. So don't make it hard to participate. And then lastly, provide clear guardrails. My favorite user-generated content stat, and so this is not just for EGC, but this is also for people that are talking about your brand online, is that 50% of people that would already be generating content for you will change the type of content that they were going to create if you give them explicit instructions. And so let's say that you were doing marketing for a restaurant. If someone was already going to post an Instagram photo of their food that they ate and you tell them, be sure to tag our handle on Instagram, 50% of the people will go back, fix their post, and add the handle. If someone's going to leave you a Yelp review and they say, please leave us a review on Google Reviews, 50% of the people that were already going to leave a review will go back and post it on Google instead. And so just be really explicit for the type of content that you want. Are you looking for a testimonial that's going to support your hiring function? Are you looking for someone who just tried out a new product or service? Are you looking for just like a slice of life piece of people in the office doing the thing, or eating at a restaurant, or going to a happy hour? Be really specific about what you need to really drive your whatever content strategy you're playing with. And like I said, 50% of the people that will participate will actually shift and change to better suit it. So give them instructions. Next up, offer meaningful incentives. If you throw a pizza party for your adult staff, not only will you get roasted by your Gen Z staffers. Gen Z, is that correct? I'm getting nods, okay. Shouldn't have raised your hand. I'm just calling you every time I need a reference from your generation. Right, you're gonna get roasted on social, your staff is gonna resent you, and I think they're probably gonna slash your tire. So really think about what's a meaningful reward for your organization. What actually makes someone happy to participate? What's an incentive? Maybe it is a pizza party, and I'm wrong. I'm not. But you can go through that mental acrobatics. Think about something that creates that lasting commitment, that creates a really deep connection. One of my favorite examples is Hootsuite. We all know Hootsuite, the social posting tool. They have their little owlies, which is their mascot. And so as you participate, as you do stuff, you accrue points. And so you can get little branded owlies. There's different ones every year. There's some that are meant for winter holidays. There are some that are like region specific. So you can kind of trade them. Like if you're in Atlanta office, you can trade with Toronto. And then one of the other great things that they do is they actually, when you accrue enough points, they'll make a donation to a nonprofit on your behalf. And for the people at Hootsuite, that's much more meaningful than a Jimmy John's gift card or a pizza party or a pat and back. Like that shows that people really care about that perspective. So really, this is a culture thing. There's not one size fits all. What's going to make a meaningful commitment? And there's a great article in the Harvard Business Review, if you just do meaningful incentives and look up HBR, that talks about driving meaningful action, changing habits, and giving people something nice. So really, don't think about the temporary, think about something permanent that builds that connection to the organization. Also, I have a little outlet that has a snowflake on it. I did not know it was super collectible, and I have Hootsuite people who have offered me cash money for that out. I got it at a trade show. I have no idea. So you never know what some of these social currencies are. Next up, get buy-in. A lot of the time when we think about buy-in, we think that it's going to be your CMO or your CEO or your C-suite or someone up at the very top of the organization. That's not what this conversation is actually about. Your buy-in needs to be within silos, within departments. You want to make sure that you have someone on every major team that's going to be your champion, that's going to really be excited to help you drive the conversation, to encourage people to share content, to be there and say, hey, this is a great way for us to get X, or a great way for us to showcase our team, or a great way for us to just be part of this conversation. So really find champions everywhere. It could be the intern, it could be manager, it could just be an admin, it could be, you never know who your champions are. And that's why I really encourage you to look and talk to people on the team, say who is the true gatekeeper? Who's the true keeper of the keys? Because a lot of the time it's not the manager, it's someone who's been there a long time, it's someone that has content expertise. And so find those champions wherever you can. And then lastly, look for influencers in your midst. It's always interesting when I find out that someone's a secret influencer. One of my most recent ones that I found is one of my friends who works at it's called Centro. It's the downtown development organization that does events and city beautification. I wouldn't say their name, but they're one of their marketing people. Try not to call them out. Is a secret Thai queer soap opera influencer. And so, day job, selling downtown development, night job, millions of followers talking about Thai BLs. And that doesn't have anything to do with the day job, but that means that person has a really good sense of what content tracks, when to post, what to share, what to do. right? So, maybe you have a mommy blogger in your midst that really knows how to connect with people. Maybe you have someone that's like a super elite gold star Yelper. Maybe you have someone that's really all about reels and is always constantly sharing, right? There may be secret influencers in your midst. Don't call them out. Matt, if you're watching this, I'm sorry. I love your tight heels. Please be my friend still. But really lean on them for expertise. And you never know, maybe like that person is someone that you want to bring over to the marketing team to help contribute. Maybe that person is someone you want to bring on as just a content expert to talk on a webinar or talk somewhere else, right? You can really feed all aspects of your marketing function as you start to identify people that are really socially savvy within your organization. And then lastly, celebrate engagement in all of its forms. Like I said, you really want that one person that's going to share everything, hashtag everything, do the thing all the time. But I have one coworker, no matter what, they will share everything that we post from company channels across their LinkedIn. They will comment on it, they will repost it. Like they are the sharing queen. And they just don't want to have to do anything else other than share. And that's okay, because I know that when she shares, like that just goes to her network. She has a very big network and she can do amazing things, right? So celebrate that type of engagement. Celebrate the person that's always commenting on everything. Celebrate the person that's always following all of your customers and liking and commenting on their posts. Really think about the different types of ways that your employees are actively engaging and doing things on social, and make sure that your employee content, employee advocacy online programs celebrate all types of employee participation, not just sharing the content or creating content or doing kind of the things that we know help us as marketers a little bit. I'm trying not to cough. It's very dry here in California.
You made my day, by the way. Like, I feel like I've been like the weird guy, like coughing and hacking, and everybody's like, "Oh my god, that guy's got COVID." And I'm taking like a bajillion COVID tests, and I don't have COVID. I think I'm just talking too much in ACs. So you just made me feel better.
Well, I'm from Texas, and so COVID never happened there.
Well, clearly, yeah.
If you believe or not. Just kidding. They're from Texas. So that's the framework to go through it. We have a few minutes left, and so I want to talk through a couple of interesting case studies that just kind of speak to me. In full disclosure, both of these are TINT customers, and so we were able to get some stats and information from behind the scenes. And so one of them is We Are Cisco, and they've truly leaned into the idea of sharing employee stories, sharing employee perspectives. And if you look on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, the We Are Cisco hashtag is the employee hashtag. And so any employee knows that they can go share to We Are Cisco. They have an employee advocacy team that is watching stuff. And so they've done a branded hashtag for employee advocacy and employee participation. They really launched this program at the start of the pandemic because Cisco, if you've ever been to one of their offices or if you know the company, they're a huge multinational conglomerate of technology and communication companies. They do a ton of stuff. The pandemic happened and they sent tens of thousands of people home, right? They were not a remote work company. They had these gorgeous offices, these big campuses in all these places around the world. And all of a sudden, these 20 to 30,000 people are now at home, and all of their company culture pieces, a lot of the recruitment stuff that required them to go to trade shows, to go to job fairs, all of that just stopped. And so they launched this hashtag with the idea of trying to jumpstart their community conversation, jumpstart the way that they participated. So here are some stats from this first year and a half of their pandemic work. So this is starting in 2020 and then continuing through the early parts of 2021. So with this We Are Cisco campaign, 10,000 pieces of content. Now, I don't know about y'all, but if I could get 10,000 pieces of content to help me service all of the channels that my team has to service, I would be, I was going to say a very Texas thing and talk about pigs and PCs, but let me just say I would be very, very happy. Right? Their blog visits were up because there were so many people talking about Cisco that people were just like, oh, what is this? I don't know what's going on. Let me go check out their blog. Organic impressions on Instagram are up. I will take 50,000 extra organic impressions any day of the week. Absolutely. And then the most important thing, the new blog visits were up. People were being exposed to the Cisco brand in a way that they had never been before. People were interested about it. The recruitment improved. There were a lot of other numbers that I can't share contractually, but just know that from the recruiting function to the brand awareness function to their sales function to marketing up and down the funnel, all of their stats improved. by leaning on all of their employees to be part of this conversation. On top of that, they won a bunch of awards for anyone, especially those of you that are agency marketers. You know that those awards are great. People love to hear that your agency has won XYZ award for content or creation. And now they're using this to seed future competitions, future campaigns, and future stuff moving forward. So a couple of things that we learned from working on this project with them. Number one is to let it grow organically. They didn't push too hard in the beginning. They really kind of did a soft launch with a couple of different teams and then slowly grew it as people wanted to participate. They really celebrated everyone that participated in any way, shape, or form. They kind of gamified it a little bit, did a point system as well, and really tried to get people to participate by sending them things to their house or just celebrating them on social channels. They incorporate all of this into the corporate culture, and so people now know if you're at a Cisco event, whether it be in person, hybrid, remote, whatever, that you take a picture and you share it to that hashtag. Like that's just kind of the daily life at Cisco, and it's become so ingrained that they don't have to prompt it anymore. It's not like, hey, don't forget to share your picture. Like people just know, oh, we're having lunch with the team. Oh, we got to take a picture and share it. Like that's just the thing that we do. And they took inspiration from the discussion. They got so much feedback about how to improve the remote work. They were able to make massive changes, send out new equipment, send out new software, help people get really comfortable and acclimated to work from home. And my absolute favorite piece that came from this was they launched a coloring book. And that sounds a little bit weird, but what it was is all these people got sent home, all of them are at home with their kids, and someone made the comment, oh, my kid is always in the background of my Zoom calls, I'm a little self-conscious. And they're like, well, what if we gave your kid something Cisco-y to work on? And someone laughed, oh, that's funny, that's silly. No, they did this really gorgeous coloring book. They commissioned an illustrator. And so in the background of all these phone calls we got to have, there's these little kids coloring in Cisco coloring books while their mom or dad is on the call. And I mean, it was just like warm fuzzies, really cute, and just something that like showed that they absolutely cared about it, right? Like this kid maybe will be a Cisco employee in the future, probably not driving revenue, probably not driving recruiting, probably not driving anything, but to be able to commission a coloring book, send it out to anyone with kids throughout the entire 20,000 person organization, just showed that as a company, as an organization, as a culture, they truly cared about quality of life for everyone within the organization. And I know that they're working on, I think, V2 of the coloring book right now. And so if anyone has good connections at Cisco, I didn't get the first one. And so if you could send me a coloring book, please, that'd be very, very kind. And one of my favorite, do I have any like Chipotle stands in the audience? Thank you. Because people have like weird emotions about Chipotle. Like they're like, yeah, Chipotle, or like, Chipotle. I've never met someone that's just like, yeah, it's okay. like it's always one of the other. So, anyways, please. So I love people at Chipotle. It's a great hashtag that you guys can check out. So they did launch a branded employee hashtag. You can check it out. The cool part about it is they have everyone from the corporate chefs in HQ that are doing recipe development to general managers to people working the front lines talking about what it's like to work at Chipotle. And it's been really interesting because their big play was recruitment. They wanted to make sure that it was good to keep all their food scientists in-house, to recruit frontline workers in the restaurants, to recruit chefs and talented workers. And so they really positioned everyone within the team as an expert. Even if you're just the person making the burritos, like Chipotle is only built on making burritos, right? So you are an expert at burrito making, right? You're not just someone slated food, like you are an expert. And so I really encourage you to go to the Chipotle website, check out people at Chipotle. It's really interesting. And it's a good mix of branded content, like sign up to get our newsletter or click here for a job fair, and also actual agency coming from the folks. And just highlighting the team's perspectives. The people of Chipotle hashtag, it's well moderated, but Chipotle employees know that they can go on there and complain and get a response. And so just having that much transparency as an organization like shows that your culture is truly open to the conversation. You know, it's not like don't say anything bad in public. No, you can go on Twitter, complain to Chipotle if you're an employee. I've complained to Chipotle in other circumstances, and they do not reply to me, and get a response, which I think is just very powerful as an organization. So employees are great. We treat them nicely, especially as Gen Z rises and will ultimately take over the world and kill us all. Please do not hurt us, Gen Z. But really, don't forget that people trust people, they trust brands. And your employees often outnumber your marketers by 10, 50 to 1. And so if we're using our employees, if we're using people throughout the organization to be our advocates, to be our influencers, we can truly do amazing and powerful things. Okay, thank you so much.
So with the minute we have left, who's got a question for David? By the way, thank you. That was a terrific presentation, and I couldn't agree with you more that, we are all brands of one, and that's what makes the world go round. Like I was saying yesterday in my AVM presentation, right? The irony of account-based marketing is you target accounts, but it's really people that buy shit and have problems, and it's people you're talking to, not the account, right? So I love that. Great. Anybody, questions for him? Here, do you want to catch? All right, let's go. Ready? Back throw.
That's great.
That's on me, not you. This is why I'm not a quarterback.
I'll own that. Okay. When do you recommend getting a tool to help with social advocacy internally? Is there or do you recommend it all? Or is, once a company's over 1,000 people, you need a tool?
So my joke would be like, if you look in the marketing department, there's probably lots of tools there. Thank you. I think really it's going to be whenever it becomes unmanageable, right? I think my general recommendation is when you soft launch or you launch this campaign, look at sort of the amount of content that's coming in, right? If it's going to be a dozen pieces of content a week, or if you have to really incentivize heavily or do a lot of work to get it coming in, I wouldn't buy a tool until you get it really, really going and you need that support. With Cisco, right, when 10,000 pieces of content, right, you almost need a dedicated person, and that was not within their budget. They had an employee tool to do it. Another fan favorite of mine is Amplify from Hootsuite, which lets you push out branded content and people can share on their own channel. So I'm a big fan of that tool. But yeah, I would say do it by hand, if you will, until it becomes unmanageable and you have to either decide, do I deploy technology or do I deploy headcount?
Thanks.
Awesome. Well, thanks, David. I mean, that was great. Everybody can give David a round of applause. Oh, do we have one more? You're so close, I'm not going to throw it at you because that won't end well.
I just had a question because we work in the event industry. So we work with a lot of part-time employees, hundreds to thousands, that get access to areas that shouldn't be, broadcasted on social media. There might be private areas with artists. So have you seen anything where there's tips and tricks for, keeping some stuff private and then some stuff, we want to also, share and explore the good things happening at our venues?
Yeah, well, I'd love to chat with you afterwards. Like I said in my intro slide, I'm on the board of international festivals and events. So that's events 20,000 to 1.2 million. And so one of the best practices, the thing I love about events is, for myself as an event organizer, you can have 100 photographers, but they're not going to capture every single moment. But every single one of your attendees, every single one of your volunteers and staff, all of them have a phone in their back pocket, and so they can become your photographers. For something like that, the best recommendation is not letting it go out to the universe raw. Looking back on one of the earlier slides, can you spin up an SMS number where they can text stuff to? Is there an email? Is there a microsite? You can use a tool like Slack where they can just send in stuff. And then that way your comms team or your marketing team can intercept it, look inside what's kosher and what's not, and then push it out from there. So really, I think when you have a large number of bodies like that can all potentially be creating content, you want to make sure that you have some sort of boundary in between. And it doesn't have to be super fancy. I was working a show in Lubbock recently. They went and bought a burner phone at Walmart and then told people hey, this is the number to text stuff to, and then just have the phone off in a drawer somewhere, and all the stuff is getting intercepted by Twilio or some other SMS tool, right? So you don't have to go super, super high tech. It could be a burner phone. It could be an email address. It could be something. Just really think, what's the degree of savvy of the people that are participating? My grandmother is in her 90s. She does not know a hashtag from the back end of a horse. But from Texas, I'm sorry. But my grandma knows how to send me a photo text, right? And so, make sure that if you have older staff, that's an opportunity. If you have younger staff that can just direct message it, then maybe that's the place to do. A lot of it's going to be case by case. But happy to chat it out.
Great. Well, David, thank you. That
Thanks.
was fantastic.